Hello. Welcome to the Wedding Reporter podcast. I'm your host, Alyssa DeChico, and today we have a really great guest with us. Her name is Benita Livingston, Reverend Benita Livingston, and she is an ordained minister and has been in ministry since 1992. She has served as chaplain at the Memphis VA Medical Center, and after retiring, she relocated to Nashville to be closer to family and started Living Ceremonies, a wedding officiant business. She has been doing premarital counseling and weddings for over 15 years. She is also the pastor of St. Paul Agnew Church in Pulaski, Tennessee. She feels her purpose is to help couples have an exciting and memorable wedding ceremony by engaging their guests and telling their love story. Living Ceremonies creates ceremonies that are memorable, meaningful, and marvelous. Welcome, Reverend Benita.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yay! I'm so happy to have you. I have been wanting to do an episode for quite some time about all of the sort of paperwork, ins and outs of marriage licenses and name changes and things like that. And I'm like, who better to ask than Reverend Benita Livingston? So thank you for being here.
Good. I am honored to be here.
Yeah, so I gave a little brief synopsis of who you are at the beginning of the episode, but maybe in your own words, tell us a little bit more about you and how you started Living Ceremonies.
Okay. Well, I served as a chaplain at the Memphis VA for 20 years. And like you
Wow.
said, I've been in ministry since 1992. And once I retired, I moved to Nashville to be closer to family. My grandbabies are here. And
Oh,
I took some time to just kind of relax and adjust to retirement. And during that time, I was just kind of thinking, okay, so, what's my next? I know I'm not going to sit around the house every day watching Netflix and whatever else, getting fat.
yeah.
but so then, I was on Facebook and Instagram, one of those, and looking at a friend who is a wedding officiant. She had made a post, and it was a very simple post. I knew she was doing weddings and just didn't, just scrolling along, and she was standing next to some audio equipment she had fixed up, and just talking about having to be prepared for anything when you're a wedding officiant, and something about that just really spoke to me deeply, and it was like, yes, that's it.
Mm.
So I began to do some research on being an officiant, as a business, because I've been doing premarital counseling and had done some weddings. Um, so I knew that side of it. And so then on November 1st, 2022, I launched Living Ceremonies, which is a part of my name, Livingston.
Mm.
And it has been so much fun. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. Living Ceremonies is a wedding officiant business that is uh, caters to couples who want a ceremony that is intentional, reflects them and their values.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to say, it's memorable, meaningful, and marvelous. And it's really more than just a tagline. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I like to create a wedding ceremony that is a memorable one for not only the couple, but the guests, one that they enjoy and find some excitement in. I like for it to be meaningful by the telling of their love story, meaningful by the words that I speak over them. Because at the beginning, before I tell their love story, I will say some words to them, maybe about marriage or maybe about something that came up in our premarital counseling ceremony. And of course, marvelous. And marvelous comes from a place in scripture that says, the Lord has done this and it is marvelous in our eyes. Whether, regardless to whether a couple is faith or come from a non-faith tradition, I feel that my time with them and my journey with them is for purpose, and it is
Mm-hmm.
marvelous in my eyes.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the alliteration. I'm all about that. But I think you're right. That is more than a tagline. And you've really based your whole company and philosophy off of that. And I think that's really cool to have that direction in every couple you're dealing with to just kind of go back to those values. And I think that's a really great thing to have.
Hmm.
So let's dive in. What are some things that an officiant needs to know in their initial meeting with a couple?
May I want to know everything.
I
I
know,
want
like, how'd you meet? How'd
to.
you?
Well, based in the initial meeting, of course, the date, the venue, the
Right.
time, all of that, those kind of things. Why they select that particular venue? Was it anything special about it? I want
Mm-hmm.
to know if they have a vision for their wedding ceremony. Um, have they seen what other ceremonies have they been to? What did they like about it? What did they not like? I want to know if their ceremony is gonna if they if it's going to be special to them, if it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
meaningful to them, or is it just
Mm-hmm.
a means of we got to go through this to get to the party? And
Mm-hmm.
if that is what it is what it is. But I may not be the wedding officiant for you if
Yeah.
your ceremony is not meaningful to you because it is the beginning of your married life together. So
Uh-huh.
it should speak volume, and it shouldn't be an afterthought, because
No.
if you're gonna put all that time and money into the whole thing, of course let your wedding be special as well because it's the two of you. It's your love story. It's your space. It's your time together. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's what I kind of listen for in our first initial meetings, where what how they feel about their wedding
Mm-hmm.
ceremony, and how they want to feel, how they want their guests
Mm-hmm.
to feel as well. Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And like, yeah, learning as much about them as possible, I'm sure, is really important so you can kind of infuse those personalized details about their life into their ceremony and what you say during it, and for their guests to really, no matter how close to them they are, kind of get a little more inside glimpse of like who we're witnessing wed today
Yeah,
and, getting a glimpse of their personalities and everything. I think that's so
and in telling
important.
their love story, I tell how they met and
Yeah.
tell about their
Oh.
first date and talk about the proposal, how that went, how all of that went down and how all of
Yeah.
that came together, and mix it up
Uh-huh.
with some fun and laughter. And
Yes.
so the form that I send the couples is, they don't see each other's answers, so I take their answers and combine them. So
Oh
it's
my
usually the
gosh.
first time. It's the first time that each couple will hear what hear the story, and
I love that.
the 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 guests as well love it. They enjoy it. It's not if they looking for a kind of a dull, dry, boring ceremony. I'm not sure.
No. I love that idea of like keeping it a surprise and then revealing it at the ceremony. I think that's so special and fun and keeps everyone on their toes, and it's not just your boring here, do you give this man,
Right.
it's like
Yeah.
infused with personality. So that's
Yeah.
so cool. Um so one big question that I see in a lot of Facebook groups and that we get is, can a friend officiate your wedding? And if so, what do they have to do in order to become certified? And do you recommend this?
Okay. Um, I have
Loaded
personal
question.
biases.
I know you do.
Yes, a friend can officiate your wedding. Um, they can get ordained, but if they don't get ordained, then you need to either have someone who can sign the marriage license, either a notary or another minister or another officiant who can legally sign the marriage license, and they have to be actually present during the ceremony. If
Okay.
they get ordained, then of course the officiant, your friend, can sign the marriage license. Sometimes in the past in the state of Tennessee, they have not allowed online ordinations.
Mhm.
So that is kind of changed, but I would definitely check with the county clerk's office when you get your marriage license if you're gonna, um, if that will be acceptable for an online ordination. Um,
Mhm.
and I would only use a friend if I really trusted a friend to officiate my
Yeah.
wedding. I just would not ask anybody to do that. So it
Mhm.
is always, there are a lot of benefits to a professional officiant, someone who is experienced and trained and has done it. There are just too many benefits as opposed to a friend who, may not be professional, doing that.
Right.
So
Mhm.
I would say
That's
get you
so
a
true.
professional officiant.
I agree. I 100% agree. And yeah, it's like there's a lot of online things out there, and you're like, which one is legit? Like,
Right.
will they actually be ordained? Will this actually go through as like a legit ceremony? And so that's where I see the benefit of hiring an officiant like you, um, who's already gone through the hoops, who's already has so many weddings under their belt, who knows what they're doing.
Yeah,
Like, this is the
absolutely.
purpose of their job. So, um, yeah, whereas somebody who may not have like public speaking experience, or,
Right,
you
right,
know, the only time I can maybe understand it is if like it's your pastor at your church and you want, them to do
right,
it, or
right. That's
like,
that's fine. Yeah,
maybe someone who has a lot of public speaking experience, but also can be self regulated to actually, or motivated to actually find a legit program and want to do it and may have other prospects in the future. Like, I feel
hmm,
like that's like bare minimum, but I'm all about
right.
going with the most professional wedding pros for your wedding, because there are less chances of things getting
Things that right. Hmm.
messed up or things going awry, if you hire professionals
A
for your wedding.
professional. And the thing is, you're hiring professionals for everything else. Your wedding
Exactly.
planner, your caterer, uh, you, the person who's doing your dress, the photographer, the videographer. All of those people are professional people. So
Uh-huh.
don't just get anybody
Yeah,
to
I
officiate your wedding.
agree. Yes. So tell us all about the process of obtaining a marriage license in Tennessee, at least.
Okay. Well, you can go online and fill out the actual application, print it off, and take it to the county clerk's office. So, but you will need your driver's license, a photo ID or passport. You both have to go together, and I think that's all of you could complete that, and all your social security card as well.
Okay.
And you take all of that information and you file your license. You will actually sign your license at the county clerk's office, and they will give you all of the paperwork, and you take that and you give it to your wedding officiant on the day
Mm-hmm.
of. There is your license are good for 30 days. So,
Okay.
2 weeks before is a good time. Don't wait. I wouldn't wait any longer.
Yeah.
And after 30 days, if you're not married, your wedding license is invalid. There is
Gotcha.
also a fee for your license. I think it's like $99.50 if it's cash, and it's a little bit more if it's on a card. But you
Okay.
get a discount if you go through premarital counseling. You
Ooh,
would have
nice. I
to
like that.
complete a uh, certificate of completion, and it needs to be notarized. So the three of you will have to get together and do that. But
Okay.
it's a $60 discount, and
Awesome.
to go through premarital counseling.
That's
So that's
great.
the process of getting your license.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, that's a good tip, is to not wait till the last minute, and it's good to know it's good for 30 days and that whole thing, because sometimes it's like, at least for me, I'm not like a mathematical or sort of like forms and government paper type of a person. So I'm always like, what do I do here? I need help. Like, how do I read this website correctly? I need to make sure I'm doing it on the certain days. And I go here and then I take it here and mail it here and print it here. So yeah, that's a good rundown that you just gave for Tennessee. Um, does your officiant take care of sending in that signed document, or does the couple need to do that after they sign it at the ceremony?
I do that for them, especially if they're
Okay.
getting ready to go on their honeymoon. And
Yeah.
so, so they don't have to worry about it. I will, at the wedding, they give me the marriage license. I go ahead and sign it at that time and just, take it with me when I leave. And the next day or a couple of days, not any more than 3 days, I will
Mm-hmm.
either walk it in to the county clerk office if it's here in Davidson County, or if it's in another county, I will mail it. And I always video. I
That's
video,
good.
uh,
That's so
I
smart.
video mailing it, and
Yeah.
then I send the video to the couple so they
Oh,
will know
good.
that it is out of my hands and that it is done. So yeah,
Mm-hmm. Great. That's so good that you can take that off of their plate,
yeah,
especially like a married couple. That's probably one of the last things they want to do after they get married is, oh
mm,
yeah, our marriage license, I have to mail that. So
yeah. Now some
yeah,
have kept it. Some have that
yeah.
live in other counties. They said, "Oh, it's right down the road from us, so we'll take it back." So I said, "Okay, that's fine."
Okay.
But I do offer that as a
Yeah.
service to them.
That's so great. So tell us about the process of changing your name in Tennessee. If you are someone who gets married and wants to change your last name, how do you go about doing that?
That is a process, and it can be a tedious process.
Yeah.
Um, yes, the first thing you will have to do is get certified copies of your marriage license from the county clerk's
Okay.
office. And Davidson County will give you three free, I think. In other counties, it's different, so you have to check and see the procedure. But you get your certified copies. I would say at least three. And the first place I would go is to the Social Security office. That
Okay.
you have to walk in, you have to do it in person. It's not nothing you can do overnight. So you have to have your marriage license, your certified copy of your marriage license, your driver's license, your current driver's license, your current Social Security card, and you take all of that in to the Social Security office, and they change it. Um, then the next thing I would do is get my driver's license changed. If your driver's license is not going to expire anytime soon, you don't have, that's nothing that you have to rush and do, but that is the next
Mm-hmm.
thing that I would change. I would not, you would not do them both in the same day. I would really wait until I get my card in hand, but you can go
Mm-hmm.
24 hours later after the Social Security office to give them time to update their records and everything. But I would wait until I have my card in hand. So I would
That's
go
good.
to the DMV and with my Social Security card, with my marriage license, and that's pretty much all you would have to do to have your name change on that. And after that, go to my HR to make sure that, where I'm working, they have my correct name. And you would take your social security card, your driver's license, your marriage license, all of that. That's the main thing. And just kind of go from there, changing my bank,
Mm-hmm.
accounts, insurance, passport. Those are things that can, kind of go gradually. So it's not something that you have to do all at one time. So
Mm-hmm.
just kind of take your time and get it all done.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice is like you want to get it all done like fast probably, but you're right, it does take time, especially when you need to start with the social security card because that is kind of what, starts the chain reaction with
Mm,
everything. That's the one piece of the puzzle that you need in order to get all the other things
yeah,
good to go. Um, yeah, I know. It's a process. It's like your email address, like so many things that you've
yeah,
just lived life not no, just taking for granted, and then you're like,
Mhm.
I have to change it on
Change all
everything.
the
So it's
things.
a
Right?
process for
It is.
sure.
It is.
Yeah. So, is it best to change your name through a service online or do it through a local government agency? I know I've seen these things like Miss to Mrs. and some different websites that kind of help you through the process. So, what do you think about those websites?
I am. I'm probably old school, but I like to limit my personal information. Uh, you know, but they can be helpful. I'm not um, real familiar about a lot of them, but what I do
Mm,
know, you still have to input information they
right.
into forms that you then print out. So you still have to do some legwork. You still have to walk it into the Social Security office. You still have to walk it into the, to get your driver's license changed. And and they're doing it for, it's their business. They're doing it for a fee.
Right.
Um, I could not weigh out the pros and cons, whether it would be beneficial. It just depended on I probably give time if you wanted to save some time, but
Mm-hmm.
to just allow my information to be going someplace else.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of cautious about that. So
Yeah.
many, so much out there online.
That totally makes sense. Yeah. Using a third party like that, you don't really know what they're using your information for. Um, but yeah, I think they're probably good as a guide. But, if you have an officiant like you who is able to offer these tips, or if you're able to listen to this podcast, you may be able to bypass that, that step
Yeah,
in the process and be able
yeah,
to, like you said, just go actually into these offices and do it on your own, but also making sure that you have all the proper documentation before you do go in the offices. Because I
right,
know I've been
right.
there before where you're like, oh, I forgot one of my bills to prove that this is my address. So I have to go back home. Like
Hmm.
there can always be something like that that pops up.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And it's
um,
good, just kind of get it all gathered into a folder because there's certain things
yeah.
you're going to need, and just kind of map it out, you know, what needs to be done first, what's the most important thing. So
Mm-hmm.
it's, and you can, like I said, you can take your time on some of it. It's not
Yes.
needed right now.
Yeah, definitely. That's really good advice. So, one thing that I learned when I was getting married is that if you book your honeymoon, you should book it with your maiden name because your name will not officially be changed yet. And you need your plane tickets to match what
But
your
you
driver's license
right,
says.
right.
So, that was something that I was like, yeah, I guess on my marriage certificate, it says that I'm Alyssa DeChico, but I'm not actually Alyssa DeChico yet until I go in and officially change it. And so,
Right,
the
right,
airline doesn't know that when I'm
right. So,
getting on the plane.
right. That's right. Because your passport is going to have your maiden name, your driver's license is going to have your maiden name on it.
Yeah.
So book your stuff. It can be in both of your names, but yeah,
Yeah.
in your maiden name because you're not Mrs. Anybody yet.
Yep.
You you're still
That's
your
so true. And I'm sure, like, with checks as well, like, if you get checks from as a gift and they write Alyssa DeChico on it, but I'm not Alyssa DeChico yet. Like,
Mhm.
I have to change that with my bank before I can cash that check. And so I guess that's a
Right.
tip too as a wedding guest.
Yes,
Um,
right.
yeah, I would write, if you don't know if they're changing their name yet, I usually just write the couple's name, like Mark and Alyssa DeChico, like so
Hmm.
either one can cash it if they need to. So um but yeah, this kind of wraps up our conversation. Did you have anything else that you wanted to share as far as like name change or officiant, marriage license, getting married with us?
Um, just for couples to make sure that they bring their marriage license to the wedding,
Yes. Oh
and
yeah.
they have a designated person who will be responsible for keeping up with the license. until they
Ooh,
give it to
that's
the
good.
officiant. Sometimes that's the groom, sometimes that's the best man, sometimes that is a wedding planner, but it needs to be a designated person that will get the marriage license to the. I hate for the bride and the groom to have it because so much
Yeah.
is going on. So if it's,
Yeah.
and I don't want to have to, especially if they're trying to take pictures, that
Right.
takes a while. But if another person has it, then, they can get it to me. And if I'm going to return it, I'll just keep it. Or like at a wedding I was at a couple of weeks ago, the groom gave it to me. So I, was talking to him. So who do you want me to get? You do want to keep this, or do you want me to give it to somebody else? He said, give it to my grandmother. So I gave the marriage license because they were going to return it themselves. So
Yeah.
I gave the marriage license to the grandmother because everybody else was getting ready to party. So
Yeah.
uh,
That's a great
and
idea.
make sure the wedding license are with a responsible person who's going to be able to keep up with
Yeah.
it and return it to the clerk's office. And to know that for some, there's a certain time limit to return your marriage license.
Yeah,
And
that's good.
some say 3 days, within 3 days, but here in Davidson County, they kind of, they'll go, longer than that. But it needs to be
Hmm.
returned at least within the week,
Yeah.
so they can be properly recorded. And just take your time with the name change. It is a
Yeah.
process. So,
Hmm.
but there's another thing that about wedding officiants that I would like to mention as
Yeah.
far as couples are concerned. If, when they're looking for a wedding officiant, or when they're getting ready to book a wedding officiant, be very mindful of the time of year that they're trying to get married. Because here in
Hmm.
Memphis, here in Nashville, it is the spring and especially the fall are very
Yes.
busy
Yep.
wedding seasons, and we book up too.
Yeah, you
So if
do.
if they're looking for a wedding officiant, it is, and especially if they want premarital counseling, to
Hmm.
try to book us 6 months in advance because
Yeah.
we need time to have some sessions. I don't like to have sessions, a month before. We just start a month before.
Right.
That's
Right.
not enough time to work out any issues that they may be having. So it's best to book your officiant at least 6 months in advance. It gives the officiant time to get to know you, get to know them, your personalities, all of that. So
Yeah.
especially if it's going to be premarital counseling involved. But a lot of couples will wait 2 months before and call and, you know, asking me, inquiries, and I'm like, booked already. So just to be kind of mindful of that. Yeah.
Hmm. Those are all really, really good tips. That is so great for couples to know as they're planning their wedding. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast today and just chatting all about this. And I feel like it's one of those things that like isn't the normal like you think of when you're planning your wedding, like all of the official stuff as far as the papers and everything goes, but that's like one of the most important parts of it. So thank you for just coming on and sharing your expertise with us today, Benita.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to
All
be
right.
here with you for this time.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good one.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to the Wedding Reporter podcast. I hope you learned a little bit and had fun today. To find more resources and podcast episodes, visit NashvilleBrideGuide.com for more information. And as always, click the subscribe button and leave us a review. Until next time, I'm Alyssa DeChico, signing off.